Hello, marketing specialist with the Ohio State University Extension, and you are joining us for our Cultivating Customer Connection series. And we're going to talk about branding. And what does branding communicate about your business? Does it need a refresh, maybe? So we're going to jump right in here. If you have questions, feel free to put those in the chat, and we'll check on those as we go through the video. But we want to really stop and think about what branding communicates about our business and why is that important. So first of all, we'll talk about what is a brand? What are the elements of a brand? Does it resonate with your customers? Some best practices for sharing your brand, and then we'll do a review and some more Q&A. Many times when we talk about branding, the first thing that comes to people's mind is the logo. Well, branding is much more than a logo. According to the American Marketing Association, a brand is any distinctive, excuse me. According to the American Marketing Association, a brand is any distinctive feature, like a name, term, design, or symbol that identifies goods or services. And brand marketing is the approach used by companies to promote and establish a brand in a market by creating a unique identity, values, and perceptions that differentiate it from its competitors. And so, again, when we think about a brand, it's more than just that logo that first comes to mind. And American Marketing Association goes on to explain that brand marketing aims to connect emotionally with customers, to build loyalty, and ultimately to drive sales and marketing through activities like advertising, public relations, and content marketing. And so your brand is more than your logo. It also includes your color schemes, your typography, and other design elements. And again, we're going to go through those this evening. But again, when we talk about branding, what we're trying to do is create that emotional response with your potential customers. Those that know me know I love coffee, and once in a while I will stop at Starbucks and get a coffee. And on the Starbucks cup, they have a little saying that says that first cup feeling. And so if you're a coffee drinker and you have that first sip of good coffee in the morning, that really resonates with you because that's just a feeling that most of us enjoy, having that first sip of coffee in the morning. So if they had said that first sip, that really doesn't evoke the emotions as adding that additional word feeling. So it's first sip feeling. Again, we want to try to create that emotional response and connection. And one of the keys about your brand is deciding what kind of an emotional response do you want your brand to produce. And so you have to give that some thought, and we'll give you some tips here to help think that through. Many times when we're trying to figure out what that response we want from our customers is to think about why it exists. Why does your brand or your farm even exist? And what are you hoping to provide for your customers? And so this is an example, and some of the information throughout this presentation, a colleague of mine, Melanie Sherman, she put this example together, some of these slides that we're going to talk about tonight, and I just thank her. She does a phenomenal job as well. This is actually a campaign that she did before she started working with OSU. She created a program for MAD, which is Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. And so if you look at the images on this screen, they really reinforce the whole reason why Mothers Against Drunk Drivers became an organization and exists. And it's because these mothers had lost loved ones to drunk drivers, and they didn't want it to happen to anybody else. So some of those things that make you feel that is that red color. The image of the smashed car there in the bottom center of the screen, people just walking along the side of the road. And so again, the reason the MAD exists is to stop drunk drivers from killing people. And I think, again, these images and colors really reinforce that whole reason that the organization exists. And the other thing we have to think about in today's world is, are you consistently using your brand? And so for some of the things, simple things like, is the same spelling and the same font and the same color used across all your touch points with your customers? I had worked with a client years ago now. It was a farm, and the farm was spelled three different ways. And so the thing to keep in mind as humans, typically we can make that distinction, whether it's apostrophe S or whatever it is. But a computer cannot make that distinction. They read the letters or the numbers in the search bar, whatever it is you're using. And so consistency is very important. Again, when we talk about those images, really need to think about the images that reflect your brand accurately, excuse me, and really need to be very thoughtful about the images that you put out there. Fonts and colors, and we'll learn more about this as we go through tonight as well. But you need to think about that. And then what values do you share to reflect the values of your brand? And that can really be done in messaging. And we'll talk more about that as well. Why it's so important to be consistent is we are just so bombarded with information, especially digitally, but all types of information. We are so bombarded that if you're not doing a good job of being consistent with your branding for your business, it'll just get lost in all the noise that's around us at all times. And so there are 5 components that we're going to talk about tonight when we think about creating your brand. And so first, again, we want to make sure that we have a good brand, and then we develop a strategy to effectively communicate with our customers and, again, reinforce that emotional response that we're hoping to evoke in our customers. And there's a link here to an article where you can read more about that as well. But some of the good components we talk about is your identity, your purpose, your messaging, your differentiation, if I can say that word, and your brand experience. And one of the things I think that it's important to remember is that it's not only the experience your customer has if you're they come to your farm or if you have a brick and mortar store, but it's all those touch points that they get to before they even come to do business with you physically. And maybe you don't even have a physical presence. Maybe it's all online, but we have to remember those online and digital touch points as well. And so again, my colleague Melanie came up with this example of a fictional business, but it's Fishburne Farms. And so again, when we talk about those elements of your brand, we think about things like color, like design and fonts, logos, and the physical and visual elements that identify your brand in your customer's mind. Okay. Remember, this is our baby. We know our business inside and out, but our customers don't. They're going to relate to the business, your business, based on all these things that you put out to your customers. And so one of the things that we talk about, of course, are fonts. And so there are 5 font families: the serif, the sans serif, the monotype, the script, and the fantasy or the creative. And of course, here's just a few examples of those. But I think it's important to really be thoughtful when you choose your fonts for your brand, for your business. And so things like, if we're going to decide we're going to use script, well, what's the problem with that? If you have a younger demographic customer, they may or may not be able to read script. If you're going to use something like this sans serif and it's embellished and you have an older audience that maybe doesn't have the best eyesight anymore, are they going to be able to read it? So really think about the fonts that you choose to use for your brand, and we'll talk a little bit more about them, but maybe three. I wouldn't go crazy and have one from each of these families. I just think that's too conflicting and too confusing. So think about maybe two or three different fonts for your business. And the next thing we want to talk about is the identity. And this, some people call a logo. That's usually the first thing that comes to mind. And when we're starting a new business or a new farm, we get excited about what our logo might look like, right? But you really have to think about this again in a way that's going to be effective for the marketing and outreach that you're going to do. It also needs to be produced in both black and white and color, depending on where you might want to use that logo. And so if we look at this one here, this circular one, it's beautiful, but very detailed. That's probably not going to be real easy to reproduce and print if you're going to do like business cards or brochures or posters. And so think about what your logo again looks like, and then how that reflects the why of your business, the values of your business, the products of your business. So again, be very thoughtful about that. Again, can it be produced both in color and black and white? So this is a good example. In color, it looks great, but how would that look if it was just black and white, which we'd have some black, some gray, and some white? It probably wouldn't evoke the same emotions in your customers or look as appealing as it does in color. Can it fit into spaces both horizontally and vertically? Again, that depends on where you're going to be using it. Is it on your website? Is it on business cards? Is it on posters? Is it on apparel? The list just goes on and on. But again, you want to think about how easy that is to be able to use in different settings. What shape or picture will you use to connect with your target market? Again, if we think about this particular colorful tree here, is that going to send the same impression if it's in black and white? And I would say probably not. And then does the target market know what the graphic or symbol is? And is it relevant to your company? So in these examples here, we all have these trees or plants. So it evokes, nature, maybe farming, maybe growing things, maybe a landscape company, and all those kinds of things. So I think it's important, again, to think about those customers you're trying to reach that have never interacted with you before. How are they going to react initially to your logo and your graphics? So again, give that a good deal of thought. And here's another example, again, from Melanie. When we look at the different types of fish for Fishburne Farms, this one gives a very different emotional response than does this one. Would you not agree? And so really think about what that image is that you're going to use for your particular brand. Again, send some impressions to your customer before they ever do business with you. Another thing, of course, that we need to think about are colors because they play a big role consistency of your brand. Of course, working for the Ohio State University, we have a department that makes sure that we are true to OSU's brand and the College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences. So we have very specific colors that we are to use. We have specific fonts that we are to use, and they, of course, think about when and how logo can be used in behalf of the work that we do. And why is that? Well, once your brand is developed, it is valuable to your company, but it also, again, that consistent use helps us really identify as soon as we see that block O, we all think of what, right? OSU, and typically football, although not always. And so think about your colors, think about the colors that you do. And just a little bit of trivia, do you know the first three colors that humans are able to see when they're born? I did not know this until I heard Melanie talking about this several weeks ago. Um, Black, white, and red. And so, do we see children's toys, especially very young children and toddlers and under? Do we see black, white, and red toys for them a lot? No. Why? Because the adults are the ones that are making the decisions on purchasing those products. And so think about again the colors that you choose and then what emotions those colors can represent to your potential customers. And so when we look at these warm colors like red, orange, and yellow, they can provoke feelings of anger. Remember, MAD, the Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, was prominently red because they wanted people to get angry about drunk drivers and try to bring an end to that. Um, they can also provoke powers of power and passion. For some, yellows and oranges really can evoke comfort. And then if we look at the colors like blue, green, purple, those typically are calming, reduce anxiety, but they can also trigger sadness. So really put some thought into, again, the colors that you choose to use for your business. And then if we go to the second component of our brand, it's that purpose. And it is, again, why does your company exist? What's your mission? What's your why? And so, one of the things in this example that we think about, and we see here why the brand exists, is to share this family's authentic and unique salsa recipe. And so they got that. That's why we exist. This is what we want to do. And then what does the company value? Family get togethers, right? Food and family get togethers go hand in hand. And so think about how you can communicate those values through your branding. And then the unique blend of people that make up family and the spice of family life. These are all things that Fishburne Farms was thinking about when they were developing this fictional business, Melanie. So, the other thing that can be really helpful in guiding you in determining your brand is your mission statement. Again, why does the business exist in the first place? Your vision is not where you are today, but where do you see your business in the future? Again, what are those core values that you hold as a business? And that really will help to guide your business moving forward. And so, again, these are things that you can sit down and write out and really think about before you start with any type of a logo, choosing your colors or any of those things. And so again, when we think about that image, that's again what most people think of or the logo. Again, what image you choose sends a message to your customers and potential customers before they ever actually do business with you. So if you look at this image on the left and the font used here, again, sends a very different message to your potential customers than does the one here on the right with the Fishburne Farms and the heart. And so again, it is very important that you think about these images that you choose, the colors, to make sure that it does accurately reflect what you want your brand to be and to say to your customers. The other thing, of course, that we talked about is being consistent and being clear and having character. And if you are a family business that has a sense of humor, go for it. That's not always the case, but I think a lot of people relate to that as well. Again, with our Fishburne Farms example here, they've chosen this copper plate font. They've chosen this fish with the red eye. And what's the problem though with their last name being Fishburne and a fish on the logo? Well, people might think that they're selling fish. But right here in their tagline it said Fishburne's Farm Salsa spices up your family. table. So again, that's reinforcing the fact that they value family and they want to provide food that helps to spice up your family gatherings. And right here it says fish not included. So that again helps reinforce the fact that, yes, while their name is Fishburne, they're not producing a product that has anything to do with fish. And so then we look at this, there's nothing fishy about Fishburne Farm salsa. We use 5 simple ingredients: tomatoes, onion, jalapenos, garlic, and sweet peppers. Again, fish not included, you might want to say there as well. The other thing that we need to do is think about how we're going to be able to differentiate our product from some of the other products in the marketplace. And so again, what's the emotional response that you want to create in your customers? And so you can look at this graphic versus this, one that's around everywhere. And so I think when we differentiate our brand, not only does it go into our logo and our name and all those things, but I also think it's important to have the pep talk with the other people that are involved in your business. And so here are some examples. We're a farm with fish, and we make salsa, not fish products. We have a unique family recipe. Again, very evident that they are a family-oriented company. This is something that certainly differentiates them from a lot of the other salsa makers out there, is that it's cilantro free. And of course, you either love cilantro or you hate it. And so that's an opportunity for them to, again, distinguish themselves from some of the other companies that are making salsa. We're small, but we're mighty. We liven up a family table 1 jar at a time. Again, back to that family values and wanting to have those good times when you're together with family. And then our salsa is made in smaller batches. And so it should have you yield a tastier product. And so would you imagine that the price for Fishburne Farm salsa is probably higher than this more common produced in large batch salsa? And I think it's important your pricing, keep this in mind too, your pricing sends a message to your customers before you ever do business with them. And so working with a lot of local food and farmers over many, many years now, we in ag tend to undervalue the work that we do and our products. Please don't do that. If we're making these in smaller batches and using the product only grown on our farm, it should cost more than some of these mass-produced products as well, in my opinion. So think about your pricing as well. And then again, what's the experience your customers is going to have with your brand? How do you connect with customers? And of course, in today's day and age, a lot of that is via digital media, social media platforms, search engines, email marketing, the list goes on and on. But we need to, again, think about your messaging and tone. I think we've clearly seen from this example of Fishburne Farms, they have a sense of humor, but they value family. What are the products and services? And so they've told us it is small batch crafted salsa that's made only with products grown on their farm. We need to think about those touch points with our customers. And again, it might not be a physical interaction with your customers. It might be you have an online store and you never physically interact with your customers. And so think about how they're going to have that interaction if they're only interacting with you on social media, on an online store, and all those things that go along with that. Maybe you sell at a farmer's market, or maybe you're in grocery stores. And so think about how that impacts those environments and those interactions with your customers as well. And so we want to have those customer experiences that again generate that emotional response. And so, how you present your product, how you brand your product, the language you use, the fonts you use, the images you use, all those things can help you create the experience that you want your customers to have. What can you do to make your customers appreciate your brand, and what's your company culture? Again, on Fishburne Farms, it's very evident that they value family. Why do you want a customer to appreciate their brand? They're small batch, right? So high quality, locally produced. Everything that goes into their salsa is made on their farm. And so that is a way that you can help, again, help your customers appreciate what your business is all about and help them have that connection with you. And so, again, when we think about the experience, the brand experience that your customers have, again, we want to appeal to those natural instincts. The visuality or the visuals of your story are important, especially when we talk about agriculture and food and farm production. Most of the population is very far removed from food production and farming, so they don't have an understanding like we do. And so, really think about the story that you're able to tell and the images that you can put out there to interact with your customers. It is important to have great customer service, whether that again is in person or whether that's an online platform. There are things that you can put in place to make sure that you have a good customer experience or service. One of the things, of course, that comes to mind when we think about having that great customer experience is Amazon, right? We can sit at 2 o'clock in the morning in our PJs with our smart device, and with one click, I can order it, have it shipped to my house, and have it billed to my credit card. And I don't have to even leave my house. And then, oh, by the way, if I'm not happy with it, I can easily return that as well. They've really thought about all those touch points they have with their customers. And so take some of those tips or tricks or best practices from other companies that might be a fit for you as well, that you could tweak and make it work for your business as well. Use your branding on your social media. Maybe you want to develop blogs or social media posts with recipes or ideas for celebrating with families, and all while using their. And this is one thing I think it's so important to do. Not only are a lot of people removed from agriculture, but there's a good chunk of the population that are removed from how to cook food as well. And so try to make easy recipes and share those with your customers on how you use your product in your own family. And so, again, it adds to that family celebration with their salsa. So, again, share recipes, share images of your family enjoying your product, and think about that as well. Make your farm visible. Show your customers they are real people behind the brand, and develop a spokesperson for the farm. And I think that's great advice. Not everybody in the farm is going to be the one that wants to be out there interacting with the customers and telling that story. So who's the one person in the family that is good at that story, those interactions, and are they willing to fill that role? Again, feature how you grow the items on the farm and make the salsa. And then again, the play on their name. It may have fish in it, but we don't do fish. So all that storytelling and experience your customers have with your brand really, when we think about it, can send those messages and hopefully invoke those emotions that you want your customers to have with your product. And so here's an example of Fishburne Farms and their brand identity. And so we're going to go through this as well. A brand identity summary. If you work with a graphic designer, they usually will do this for you. And so they're going to want to know a lot of the things that we've already talked about. Why do you exist? What's your mission? What are your values? All those kinds of things. And they might if you hire them to create your brand identity, you should receive something similar to this. And so here we talk about the primary logo. And remember the different images of the different fish that we saw and what different emotions they evoked when we looked at those. Again, Fishburne Farms has decided to go with this fish with the red eye. And it can be used on a black or dark background with white shadows. And again, they've chosen the font Copperplate Gothic Bold and with a black outline around the red. And so you can see how that would translate if it's printed on different types of backgrounds, white, black, and red. The secondary logo is a simplified version of the primary logo, and this would have the main feature of the farm name and the fish graphic, but it would potentially be used for other food products. And so you can look here and see a little bit of the difference. Here, it doesn't have that red eye, and it's just got the black font here. So this, of course, black and white, and then this one doesn't have the outline around the font as well. So again, a little bit more simplified than on that previous image. And here's the other thing I think it's important. Again, if you work with a graphic designer professional, you want to think about those colors as we talked about earlier. And so graphic designers and printers are very familiar with how customers are what's the word I'm looking for? Identified. Of course, with Ohio State University, I mentioned we have a very specific scarlet, a very specific gray, a very specific black, that we know what these colors, the numbers of these colors are, so that you are sure that when you take that to a printer, that you are getting the colors specifically that you want. And this green just makes me think about, we've all heard about John Deere green. And when you see John Deere green, you know that that's John Deere green. And so the other thing that's nice about having this information, some of the platforms online that you can use to help design posts and messages for your business, such as Canva. Not endorsing Canva, but I do know a lot of businesses and use and like that. You can load this information into a platform like Canva one time, and then they've got your brand information there, the fonts, the colors, and all those kinds of things that go along with that. Again, fonts are one of the most recognizable aspects of a brand's identity. And so use the font strategically. And I mentioned earlier, please be consistent, not only in the use, but in the spelling of your business name. And so again, for Fishburne Farms, they chose the Copperplate Gothic Bold for that main message. So the display font and used for important messages, and it ties to their logo. The sans serif font, we use this for font for copy or for multiple lines of text. And then New Times Roman bold, can use this font for headlines and subheads. And then, of course, we think about images too. And there is the opportunity to buy quality images online. You can't just go and steal some images off of somebody else's website or those kinds of things. If you have the opportunity to hire a professional photographer to take images, especially for your farm, I highly encourage you to do that if you have that opportunity. I know a farm here in Ohio that several years ago they hired a professional photographer to take pictures of their farm all 4 seasons of the year, right? Because we don't only want to share images of what the farm looks like in midsummer when everything is in, production and we're harvesting all of our product, but it's nice to be able then to share those other seasons throughout the year. And so if you're going to work with a professional photographer, make sure that they understand and you understand who has ownership of those images in that whole process. But image quality, I think, is something, again, that we really overlook. And while we all can take photos with our smart devices anymore, is it really the image that you want to put out there for your product or service? And so think about those things as well. Icons are another thing that you might want to think about for your business. Here's one, it's a black and it's a bowl of chips. And then we've got this green pepper and the red tomato here. And so you might want to have a couple of those as well to help communicate your brand with your customers at all the digital touch points that you're going to have with them. And so here's an example of a branding worksheet, and I'm happy to share this with anybody that might want that. But when we think about your brand identity, what are the visual components? What are the colors? What are the fonts? And what is, with your purpose, the vision, the values, all the things that we've talked about this evening to help you be able to just kind of jot some of these things down so that you have a cohesive message that you can send with to your customers and potential customers. And again, about that emotional response we want to create with our customers. Here's just again an example that Melanie filled out on Fishburne Farms. And so you can take the time to look at that. Again, personnel, their friendly staff, values family and family time. I think that came through very evident on the things that we've seen for them already. What's the brand experience online and retail, storefronts at the farm, websites and Facebook? And then we talk more about company culture and your customer experience. They want the store to be clean, unique, personable, stories online, testimonials from customers. So again, this worksheet can help you really think through some of these things and get that cohesive picture in your mind of what you want to put out there for your product or farm. And so again, there are many resources out there for creating a brand identity. Canva, again, is one that we mentioned earlier. There's some freelance service marketplaces where you can submit what you're looking for, and these graphic designers will create a marker, a logo for your business. Typically, it doesn't cost a great amount. So that might be something if you don't have the funds needed to pay a graphic designer to do the whole thing. And again, some more resources that you might look into to help you with developing your brand identity. And again, once we get that brand developed and are consistent in using it, we need to think about consumers. Who are the today's consumers for our product or service? And what are some of the preferences for building a farm brand? And so, again, think about the emotions that we want our customers to have when interacting with our farm. We want it to be a sensory experience. We produce food, most of us, and so that can be very sensory experiences created on the farm, whether that's the smell of fresh peaches when you walk into a farm market and we smell fresh peaches. Oh, isn't that wonderful? But there are other things that we can do as well, letting them touch some of the products. Maybe it's an ear of field corn that they've never come in contact with before. There's all different ways that you can create those sensory experiences. Again, those emotional connections and building those relationships through stories and values that align with your customers. And so everybody has a story. I tell farmers and food producers all the time, you've got a great, unique story to tell that can help you stand apart from your competitors. And so this story and how you tell it goes back to once upon a time. And if you look back to the Cultivating Customer Connections webinar we did in October, you can hear more about storytelling and I think can get some valuable information from there as well. But again, a great storyteller can really help create those emotions that we're trying to create in our customers. And then you want to have that intellectual engagement. So offer information and thought-provoking content. Most people don't like to be sold to nowadays, especially online and on social media sites. But again, as I mentioned, most people are very removed from how food is produced and how people farm. And so you're the expert in that area, and share that information with your customers and help them understand why you do things that you do. This year was a great example. We had a severe drought through most of Ohio. And so if people weren't able to get the products, pumpkins in some areas were not existent, you can have that conversation with your customers, whether that's face to face or online. Well, it didn't rain, so we weren't able to get the pumpkins to be able to grow. Anybody else say, well, we were able to irrigate our pumpkins, so we were able to overcome the challenges of the drought and things like that. And again, we want to think about those stories, images, and messaging that enhance your brand. And so again, when we get to recognition, again, it really goes to that logo or slogan, or again, colors and design. Again, the easy one that always pops in my mind is John Deere. Yes, they've been around forever, but they've been very consistent with the John Deere green and the yellow deer. So idea or image of the product or service. Okay, so again, if we look at the example of the Fishburne Farms, it's not a fish product, it's a jar of salsa. And so again, that can help your customers understand who you are. Think about your reputation, not the things you sell or market. Again, especially when it comes to local food and farm products, people want to know who grew it, how they grew it, and why they're doing what they're doing. They also want to feel valued and appreciated. So, how you treat your customers is very important. And then, how the organization impacts not only that individual customer, but how do you contribute to your community as well? And then if we look at retailing, again, using your brand to market to customers, again, that's not always physical location. Sometimes that's an online connection. And so that consistency is even more important. Again, it's not advertising. It's trying to develop those relationships with your customers and help them have that emotional connection to you as a business and an individual doing what you're doing. And so, what is your story? And here's a very famous quote from Simon Sinek. It's people don't buy what you do, or people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And so this again comes back to storytelling. What's your story? So an example here are Tom's shoes, stand for tomorrow. I think many people understand that Tom's are shoes that every time I buy a pair, they give a pair to somebody that doesn't have shoes. So it's more than just providing shoes to those who can afford it. They're also trying to improve the world, in my opinion, really to help provide shoes to those folks that aren't able to. Amazon, we have everything from A to Z, and we'll have it with a smile. And so this one, I had looked at this logo for many, many times, and I didn't realize it until it was pointed out to me. There's a 31 hidden in the logo, right? You can see the 3 and the 1 right here. And then they have 31 flavors, one for each day of the month. So again, we think about all those things when we talk about these images that you're putting out there for your customers. This one for Tostitos is interesting. It's, to me, these are two people and they're gathering around chips and salsa. Again, that's one of the things that Tostitos is known for, is their chips and salsa, of course. So do you know why you do what you do? If not, pause, think about it, put some of that information down on paper so that you can come up again with a message that reflects why you do what you do, the values of your operation, and will make that connection with your customers and potential customers. And then we've talked about the messaging and the images. Do they fit your brand? And so who are your customers for your product or service? That again is going to dictate to some extent the information that you put out there. Are your customers young kids? Are they moms and dads? Are they older adults? All those things really go into determine what's your message, what fonts you use, what colors you use, what are your business goals and capabilities? What are your personal, family, and business interests and goals, right? And so, again, people that support local food do so because they want to support local farms and local families as well. So, what story can you tell to help make that connection with those customers? What are your resources and strengths, and what's your lifestyle and motivations? Again, all these things can go into considering what message you put out there to make those connections with your customers. Telling your story not only in print or text, but visual displays. Do you have signs that talk about who you are, where you're from, or what you're selling? I was a strawberry grower, so of course I love this display of this beautiful tables of strawberries and this nice sign here as well. At farmers markets, of course, we want to pile it high and watch it fly. The nice thing about this, of course, is everything has a name and a price. So customers don't have to ask. They don't like to ask how much something is. And so you need to get to know your target customers. It's important because I really don't think you can be all things to all people at the same time. So my suggestion is always to figure out where your target customer spends their time on social media, if they do, in fact, and then do one or two social media platforms and do those well. Don't do 10 and do all 10 poorly. Try to again, think about which one aligns best with your particular target customer. There's tons of information and research out there that can help you figure out, based on your customer demographic, where they spend their time. Pew Research is one that has great information. The other thing you can do if you've already got customers, ask them, how'd you hear about us? Did you see us on Facebook? Did you see us on Instagram? Did you see us on TikTok? And really help to figure out where your customers are spending their time so you know where to spend your time as well. And then, of course, do you manage your own digital marketing? Does a key employee do it, or do you have a third party? And it's very important if someone in the family is not doing the digital marketing and you're hiring a third party or have a friend that's going to do it for you, that they're able to talk to your potential customers in the voice of your farm or business. And so, again, having those things like, why do we exist? What's our mission? What do we value? What are the images and messaging we want to put out there for our customers? That you certainly have that conversation with whoever's doing your social media and your digital marketing so that you are getting that information out there that you want to your customers. An estimated 91% of small businesses allocated resources to digital marketing in 2021. Very important to be online anymore. Gone are the days when you could get away with not having a website or not being on social media for the most part. Those days are gone. And 90% of customers report that videos influence their buying decisions. And so again, think about how can you create those short, engaging videos that tell the story of your farm or business in a way that you want that image put out there to your customers and potential customers. So here's some additional resources for you where you can learn more about developing your brand. And if you have questions that you would like to learn more about, you feel free to contact either me or Melanie Sherman, my colleague that did a lot of this work with the Fishburne Farms. I'm sure she'd be happy to talk with you. So here's her email address and mine as well. So I appreciate your time this evening.